Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay, shall we start the class? Only 10 are there, or shall we wait for some time? Once again, good afternoon to you all. So today, as I said in the last class, so today I'm going to cover convention symbols, which we're going to use in surveying. So drawing a map or a plan, we're going to make use the symbols to locate certain objects. So here we'll go one by one. All of you can see this PPT slides.
Yes, sir.
Here you can see, starting from, we'll go for chain line. In the chain line, we're going to make the marking like this, dash dot, dash dot, dash dot, dash dot, in a straight. So this is the chain line, where we're going to have the chain laying a straight line, and that chain line, we're going to mark it like this, dash dot, dash dot, dash. Next, another one is triangulation station. These triangulation stations are, it's like control station, or you can say main stations, as we discussed in the last class about control stations and main stations. The stations which cannot change its position, that what we're going to say, that is main station or control station, that we're going to denote in triangle, and inside we're going to write A. Whatever the station naming we're going to give, that alphabetic we're going to keep it. Say here I am keeping A. This is how we're going to mark the triangulation station. Next, traverse station. In the traverse station means, you know what is traverse? Traverse means moving one point to the another point with along with all the along with taking all the instruments. So traverse means moving from one point to another point. So that won't be the fixed point. It will be movable point. So whatever the movable points are there, for temporary purpose we used to have, so that thing we're going to make it as a oval shape or round shape, and inside we're going to write the alphabetic name for that particular point. So this will be the traverse station. Next, coming to building. If in the survey plan or map, if you are going to locate some buildings in that map, so there we're going to make it hatch like this. We're going to make rectangular section, and this will be the hatch pattern. So similarly, shed with open side, you know shed, right? Wherever these sheds are there, if it is open, so there we're going to have this kind of hatch. So you can see here the inclined line which are parallel to each other, and there is an opening in between. Next, coming to shed with closed side. Shed with closed side means the roof will be closed. So that one, how we're going to make the symbol like this, rectangular and inclined dotted lines. Next, coming to temple, mosque and church. Here we're going to denote like this. This will be what? Temple, and this will be mosque, and this will be church. And if there is a pathway, means there is a walkway, there we're going to show it like this, dotted line. Next, unfenced road, means you can see kacha road. There is no bitumen road is laid or concrete road. So kacha road means, all of you know, right? Where there is only sand. That road we're going to say unfenced road. So this they're going to show like this, dotted in parallel line. Next, coming to fenced road. Fenced road means which you have proper road like bitumen road or concrete road. So that will be the fenced road. So this will be like straight line, not straight line, depending upon whatever the curvature of the road. So that we're going to show it like this. Next, coming to railway line. In the railway line, if you have single lane track, so here we're going to show like this. There is a single line here. On that, we're going to draw dash in transverse direction with a certain amount of intervals. This is for single lane, and for the double lane railway track, we're going to show it like this. Next, coming to road bridge. On the bridge, if you're going to lay a road, so this is how we're going to show it. So these 4 legs, 1, 2, 3, 4. This 4, which indicates bridge, and on that we're going to lay the road. So this is the symbol where we're going to have the bridge in the map. Next, coming to level crossing. Level crossing, say this is a road and this is the crossing. If you have you might have seen this type of crossing, especially in X junction, Y junction. So there we're going to have this kind of symbol, level crossing. Next, coming to road over railway. Road over railway. So there will be, you might have seen this, a railway track will be down, and on the bridge there will be a road track. So there, so that symbol, how we going to make on the map, like road over railway, like this. Okay. So there is a road upside and bottom will be the track, railway track. Next, coming to road over railway. Before road over railway, sorry, this one will be road under railway. So here road is bottom and top will be railway. So this railway we're going to have by having bridge, or we can say flyovers. Next, coming to boundary without pillars. Whenever we're going to have the planning on site, so there we're going to mark it. Is it or not? We're going to mark of boundaries of the line. What all are the things we're going to have in the building components, we're going to mark it. If there is no pillar, means pillar means we're going to mark the pillars, right? Pillar means all of you know column. That column, if it is, if that column is not drawn, only boundary is drawn, like this boundary is drawn for what? For compound. Okay, for compound wall, we're going to make this kind of symbol, boundaries without pillar, and boundaries with pillar, wherever the pillar or columns we're going to have, there we're going to have this solid rectangle, this kind of symbol. Okay, and the next, township or taluka boundaries. So here from taluk to taluk, or from one town to another town, so there will be a boundary. To showing that in the map, we're going to make it like this, dotted line, continuous dotted. So this will be the township boundaries line. Next, coming to river. So here you can see, so there is a gap over here. So here we have shown the arrow. This arrow indicates what? The river flows in this direction. So this is how we're going to show the river in the map. Next, pound. So these are the contour lines, and here, can anybody tell me how the contour line is going to be? Say I am going to write, this is 100 in the level. Okay, I am talking about the level, 100-meter height. Okay, 100-meter height. And what will be this contour line will be? Can anybody tell me? Just approximate.
90, sir.
Okay, 90. And what about this?
80.
80. Yes. So if there is a pound, so level going to be increased from top to bottom. Sorry, from top to bottom, the level will be increased or decrease. So this is how we're going to denote the pound. Okay. And for the hill also, we're going to have the same contour line, but here the levels will be different. Here it's going to be start 100, then 110, 120. Sorry, this is 100. This is 80. This is 90. Okay. Sorry, 100. Yeah, 80, 80, 70, 60, like that. So in the decreasing order, it goes from this way. If you go from this way, if you go in the decrease order, you will get. So that consider as a hilly areas. And pound, it goes like this, decreasing order. I hope all of you are understanding this concept.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next, coming to electric line. All of you have electric poles, right? Near to your houses or residential or anything. If you're taking industrial area or residential area or commercial area, everywhere we have this electric poles which supplies the power for their utility. So here how we going to make the symbol like this dash, and here we going to make this dark dot, again dash, again continuation of that, again dark dot, so which indicates the electric line. And the next one, that is tree. So this is how we're going to show the tree. All of you know. So in the plan, we're going to show it like this. Okay. In the plan, we're going to show it like this. So it seems like elevation, but in the smallest scale, we're going to show the symbol. Next, orchard. So this is the whatever the stones, rocks which is formed, which is where we won't move the position of that. So that one we're going to show it like this, the symbols. Next, woods. So these are the woods symbol. You can choose any one of this and you can have this symbol in the map. And this is grass. Grass. And next one, cutting. Cutting means, you know, if you are going to construct a road, first thing we have to make the level to that particular ground where we're going to construct a road. To making that level, so there to make up the level, wherever the more sand coming, there we're going to cut off this section. And wherever the less sand is coming, there we're going to fill the sand. So there, the cutting we're going to have. To showing that cutting, we're going to draw this kind of symbol. And wherever the filling we're going to do, so the filling is nothing but we're going to say embankment. So this one we're going to show it as a filling. Okay, filling, or you can say embankment symbol. And the last one, that is north line. If you have seen any plan, you just Google it. You take any residential plan, you take any industrial plan, whatever the plan, with the reference of north only, we're going to locate we're going to draw the plan with the reference of north. Okay, and this is not Z. So actually, we're going to write like this. Yeah, this is not the right one. So this is the north, and what will be this direction? Can anybody tell me? This will be east, and this will be what?
South.
South, and this will
West.
west. Okay, so these are the basic thing of symbol, conventional symbols, where we're going to make use these symbols in plotting a map, or you can say a plan. Is there any doubt? Now coming to phases of works in survey. What are the phases you're going to have in this surveying? The following phases will go one by one. Number one, planning. If you are going for any construction or any execution of any building, or you can say any industry or whatever the things, okay, to build anything you need to have first plan, right? And in the second case, in the second phase of work, that is care and adjustment of instruments. First thing, if you are doing the plan and if you are executing on the field, the instruments, whatever the measurements we're going to take or we're going to mark out on the field, so that we have to take care properly. And if the instruments getting error or whatever the things, you have to adjust. You have to adjust and you have to make the proper measurement. So this is the second phase. And the third phase, field work. After marking, how we going to execute with the help of the material, okay, a material making use to build the components of the structure. And the last, that is office work. Office work means whatever the things we are just doing from starting 1 to 3, everything we're going to make in the proper format, and we're going to make the proper scheduling in that. So that which includes the office work. Okay. So these all are the phases of work in surveying. Next, coming to error in surveying. Errors, what kind of errors you're going to have? So we'll study now. Types of errors. Number one, mistakes. Second, systematic errors. Third, accidental errors. We'll go one by one. In the mistakes, what kind of mistakes you're going to have? The human, usually human means he does many mistakes, right? He willingly or not willingly or unfortunately it happens. So here we're going to study here errors due to carelessness of the observer. Suppose if you are taking any reading, or if you are taking the tape and you are measuring the length, in that instead of the actual length will be 20 meter, and instead of saying that 20 meter, if you are going to say 20 centimeter, okay, so same thing is going to write while taking the measurement. So there we're going to have the mistakes. So such kind of mistakes we're going to make. So that we have to avoid. And here, so one by one we'll go through it. Carefully targeting object before taking reading. So what I have given the example. So whatever the readings we're going to take while measuring, so that whatever the object we're going to target to take the reading, so that should be carefully taken. Next, second one is taking multiple scale readings. Taking multiple scale readings. So as I was discussing about the scales, if there is a large area, so we're going to reduce the area in terms of scale, in terms of fraction. What kind of fraction? Representative fraction. In terms of representative fraction, we're going to make it in a small scale. The small scale which represent larger area, large scale which represent smaller area. Okay, this is the difference. So taking multiple scale readings, we have to take multiple scale readings here. Okay, suppose if you are considering 1 centimeter is equal to 1 kilometer, okay, and you are going for 1000 kilometers, and that whatever the plot area that is not sufficient to draw. So there again we have to change the scale. So there we have to make sure that whatever the the plan or map we're going to draw, that should be done as per the scale, proper scale. And the next, that is recorded loudly, announcing the reading so that readers hear what he records. Whenever we're going to do the survey, first person he going to measure, and whatever the readings he see, same thing he going to say to his assistant or the fellow who is going to write all the measurement readings. So by taking that reading, whatever he going to read that measurement loudly, okay, if that assistant is staying somewhere far away from his location, so he is reading loudly. So at that time, whatever he going to hear, due to some error in hearing, so there may get chance of writing mistakes in measurements. Okay, so that is the third case. And the fourth case, that is taking additional reading for checking. So you have to do additional reading checking. Additional reading checking means, if you are having the rectangular section, if you are going to have a rectangular section on the field, so there we're going to have the diagonal line as well. Diagonal line, why we're going to have the diagonal line? Because to cross check whether whatever the area we calculated as per the drawing and on the field, is it matching or not. So there we have to have the additional checking readings. Okay. Next, systematic errors. In the systematic errors, we're going to usually have what kind of systematic error we're going to have? Mathematical expressions, whatever the calculations we're going to make use in the calculation of area and volumes. So there, the mathematical expressions, whatever we're going to input, so that should be properly formulated, and it should be made use while calculating this areas and volumes, that thing. And they are regarded as positive if they make result too great, and is as negative if they make result too small. So this is what the thing is, the reading, whatever the length we're going to calculate, the chain length will be 20 meter. Okay, the chain means all of you know. So this is chain. Okay, so this chain we're going to elongate. Say this chain is 20 meter. So this chain has 20 meter length. This chain, when we're going to elongate, and the if the actual length on the field will be say more than 20, or you say 25 meter. Okay, that 25 meter and your chain has 20 meter, and when you're going to take the extra 5 meter length measurement, by taking that, instead of taking 5, it go positive or negative. So that mistake going to be happen. So that is what it has written here. Positive, if you are taking the positive, they make result too great, and if you are going to take negative means the lesser length, it makes too small, means the length will be too small. Okay, so that is the example for that. And whatever the cumulative total we're going to take, so that will comes under the cumulative errors. And to rectify that, so there are some formulas are there to rectify. In coming classes we're going to study that also. We'll solve the problems on that. And also when you come to college, so here we go for field in practical. So there we're going to have all this kind of study. Okay, so there we get to you get to know how the errors going to be happen and all those things. Next, coming to accidental errors. In the accidental errors, same thing here also, positive or negative, their magnitude may vary from reading to reading. For example, taking a reading with a survey instrument, human eye, has a limitations of distinguishing between two close readings. Usually, human means his eye will be some kind of say he won't be has the power of 0. All of you can catch my what I'm saying now. This 0 means, all of you know, the power 0 means it doesn't have any error in his eyesight. If he has some power sight in his eye, so there whenever the readings we going to take, so there may going to vary depending upon the magnitude. Depending upon the magnitude, it may vary. So there we're going to have the accidental error. So this accidental error will occur unknowingly. Okay, unknowingly. Next, coming to source of errors. In the source of errors, here we're going to have number 1 instrumental error, second natural error, third human limitations, fourth carelessness. We'll go one by one. Instrumental error. In the instrumental error, what kind of instruments we're going to use? We're going to make use the instrument to measure linear measurement and angular measurements, right? In the linear measurements, if I'm going to take this example, chain. So chain is made up of steel. Okay, chain is made up of steel, and this we're going to elongate on the field. Okay, on the field we're going to elongate the steel, and there, due to this open to the atmosphere, there may be a chances of getting more heat. Due to the temperature variation, this chain may get expand. Okay, chain may get expand. So that chain if getting expand, so there we're going to have the instrumental error. Okay, so similarly, likewise, we're going to have in the compass also, whatever the readings we're going to take, the angles, due to the location where the local attraction which we're going to have, so there also we're going to have the errors. Okay, there also we're going to have errors. So there, that one what we say, that is instrumental errors. Next, coming to natural errors. In the natural errors, like natural errors means if there is a variation in temperature, humidity, refraction, and if you are not going to consider the curvature of the earth and the magnitude declination. Magnitude declination means if whatever the angles we're going to take, so there we may not have the proper readings. So that declination happens due to the climatic changes. Okay, so these are the natural errors. Next, human limitations. Human limitations, the human eye cannot distinguish between 2 points closer than 0.25 mm. Yes or no? Are you agree with this point? So 0.25 mm, it's very short distance. Very short means it's not 1 mm also. It's just 0.25 mm. If that is the human eye, what we say, the sight, if that is the thing, then whatever the mark out we're going to do with the help of chain or tape, so there we're going to have the error. Okay, there we're going to have the error while doing the marking. Next, carelessness. These errors in the carelessness, that is purely due to mistakes done by the human. They are quite large. They can be avoided by the following good surveying practice by taking precautions and check readings. So as we discussed in the previous year, in this, so this is the thing. Okay, same thing again repeated. Okay, I will read out all these things so that you will have the proper idea what I'm talking about. So carelessness means mistakes done by the humans. So to avoid that, what are the accidents we're going to have? So we'll have here one by one. Positive and negative error will occur with equal frequency. This also we studied. Then small error occur more frequency. Small error means the length, whatever the small the length errors we're going to take. So that same thing, if you are going to keep small error occur more frequently. Okay. So that whatever the error, small errors we're going to have it on the field. So that will keep on adding, and that will keep on increasing. Whatever the error, the starting beginning where it has got started. And the last one is very large errors do not occur. Are you agree with this point? Because if you're going to have the large area, that large area at a time we cannot measure, right? We're going to make part by part. So making that part by part, there will be a small errors which going to occur. So there won't be large error. Okay, large error. Yeah. So approximate method of distance measurement. So here the approximate method we're going to make use in the direct measurements. All of you know direct measurements and indirect measurements, right? Yes or no?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir.
So here, with the help of direct measurements, how we're going to make how we're going to measure the horizontal distance? Here we're going to study now. Okay, approximate method. This one. So pacing. Pacing means what? Anybody? So it's there here. So how many of you are aware of the cricket gameplay? Cricket on the ground.
Only boys.
On the ground, we're going to measure the length of that field. Okay, the batsman where they're going to stand. So the length of that, how we're going to measure? Usually with the help of footstep, right? Is it or not? So here also, pacing means here also we're going to make use of foots. Okay, footsteps. By walking, we're going to have our the count of what? Number of steps. And the steps, usually the normal man walks having a length of each step to step, that is 0.75 meter. Okay, 0.75 meter. This you have to understand. Okay, this you have to understand. Whatever the walk length will be there, one single walk. So that single the step what we're going to take, so that length will be 0.75. Okay, see the number of walk, how much he going to go, so that much length he going to cover. Okay, so how we going to do? So the number of steps into the length, you will have the total length. So this is the one case. Okay, one case, that is approximate method, and the second case, that is measurement with passometer. So we have the passometer. Passometer means it's a device. That device we're going to keep it on in our pocket, or we're going to tie it on our leg. Okay, on our leg. So there, whenever we're going to do the movements, so it will record the number of movements, whatever the steps we're going to carry out. So that one will record this device, that is passometer. But in this device, it won't give the distance. Okay, distance, how much you have been covered. It will give only the number of steps, how much you have carried out. And the third case, that is pedometer. In the pedometer, it is the same like passometer, but here in the pedometer, it will give what? The number of steps as well the distance, how much you have been covered. Okay, so you can see the smartwatch. Okay, I am wearing this. So this is also a kind of pedometer. It gives the number of steps as well as the distance, how much I have covered. Okay, so that is pedometer. Next, coming to odometer. In the odometer, this odometer we're going to that device we're going to fix it on the wheel. So that wheel diameter is loaded in that odometer. Okay. So based upon the rotation of the wheel, so the number of rotations it's going to count. Okay, number of rotations it's going to count. So based upon the rotation, we're going to have the length. Okay. So next, that is measurement with speedometer. So this odometer, it gives the only number of rotation of the wheel, whereas the speedometer, which gives the rotation as well as the distance. Okay, as well as distance. This speedometer, where we have this kind of speedometer, usually in the vehicles. In the vehicles, we are using the speedometer to know the distance, how much distance we covered, and also to know the speed of the vehicle. Okay, so these are all the things. Do you have any doubts in this? No doubt? No doubt?
The speedometer, can you explain once again?
Okay, speed. Odometer, did you know, or you know this odometer, this thing? What I have
Yes, sir,
explained?
I can understand odometer, about the speedometer.
So this odometer, it attached to the wheel. It gives the number of revolution. Revolution means the rotations, how much rotations we going to have on that wheel. So that will gives the number of rotations of that wheel. Okay. Whereas speedometer, it gives the rotation as well as the distance covered. Okay. Both will record. Both will record. That's the difference. Whereas in the odometer, it won't give the distance covered. Okay, distance covered, it won't give. So in the odometer, here you can see, okay, in the odometer, so it records only the number of revolution made by the wheel. So how we going to know the distance? Knowing the circumference of the wheel and circumference of the wheel, the distance is traveled may be found. So circumference, if you know the circumference of the wheel, so number of rotation into that circumference, you will have the total distance. So that is odometer. In the speedometer, that it is the same like odometer, but it also gives what? Distance directly. Is that clear? And it is mainly used in vehicles, particularly in vehicles. Is that clear?
Sir,
Okay. So that's all for today's topic.